Hi! Welcome to mayowasworld. Hello y'all, my name is Mayowa, my pronouns are she, they, and today I'm going to be talking about texturism for Black History Month. And I'm so thankful that Ericka and Eb are putting this together because texturism is something that we really need to talk about. Before we talk about texturism, I just want to let y'all know I am really sad because I made this video once and it was 20 minutes of me giving my heart, my soul, my jokes, and the whole thing, the audio didn't work. I'm going to show you what I saw.
Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
When I tell you, I wanted to, the way I cried, you know, I'm a Cancer, I'm very emotional. I literally had to go out, go for a walk, get a coffee. I cried. And so this is my second time doing this whole work again. And I'm really gonna hope that I'm bringing the same energy I brought in the first video. So if I am, please, you know what I'm saying, just boost me up in the comments. So the first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to define what texturism is, because a lot of people have the concept or the definition of texturism already fucked up. So texturism is the preferential treatment of looser hair, looser curled people. So, you know, when we talk about definitions of things, I feel like it's really important to focus on who that leaves out and who that discriminates again. So if texturism is the preferential treatment of looser hair texture, then it literally means the discrimination of kinkier hair textures, yeah? So most people come to understand what kind of hair texture they have by using this system coined by someone called Andre Walker, which tells you that there's like 4 different grades of hair. There's 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C. You get it all the way up to 4A, 4B, 4C. So 4C is, by his definition, the kinkiest hair texture, and 1 is the straightest. But let me tell you something that I found out about this man, Andre Walker, who is a white passing person, because even though he coined this term, he's texturist as hell, because he literally said, I'm gonna quote you, he said, kinky hair can have limited styling options. That's the only hair type that I suggest altering for professional relaxing. So I also know that using a system coined by somebody who's literally texturist as fuck and like white passing is really problematic. But I think most people kind of know about their hair texture from using the system that he's created. So for the sake of this video, we're going to talk about the system that he did. So when we talk about these hair grading system, the 4C is the one that's supposed to be the kinkiest, yeah? So that's the one that we should actually focus the most attention on, because that's the farthest on the hair spectrum. So I have 4C hair, and I define my hair as kinky, and I also say my hair is nappy. If you are not black, you should never ever say that word, right? And if you are black, I feel like there are some people who find that word to be really offensive, and I understand why, because that term was used as like a way to degrade people who had nappy hair. I have had to kind of reclaim that word myself, because so much of my life I always heard people use the word nappy as a way to hurt my feelings, and it wasn't until I had to come to terms that there's nothing wrong with having nappy hair, like that's just a symptom of anti-blackness, that I started to really use that word for myself. So like, for example, I hate when people say my hair is curly, or they're like, oh, curly haired girls, because like my hair is not curly. And if you actually like look at my hair pattern, for as much as you can see, I really have like, it's zigged, and there's like no curl pattern in the way that we define that. And my hair naturally mats, yeah? So like I have freeform locks, which means that my hair is 4C hair texture, and it is so nappy, so kinky that it literally clumps together. My hair is like the nappiest or the kinkiest hair texture that one can have. So there's a certain discrimination that happens when you have really, really kinky hair, especially depending on what kind of intersections that you have that combine on top of that, right? See, like the natural hair movement, I feel like really became big around like 2009, 2010. And I feel like what really catapulted that was Chris Rock's documentary called Good Hair, which is really problematic in itself, because I feel like black men shouldn't really be speaking about the ways in which black women have to wear their hair and black non-men have to wear their hair, because especially the way he did it, because I feel like it was like low-key kind of jokey. But prior to like the natural hair movement becoming very big, most people was perming their hair and straightening their hair, and like it was seen as unprofessional to have an afro or your natural hair to work, right? So the natural hair movement was really pushing to make it normalized to have natural hair and natural hairstyles like box braids, micro braids, all them stuff to be really normal in the workplace, right? But what they didn't tell you about natural hair movement is also really embedded in white supremacy, as it would be, yes? So like the people who have Eurocentric features and Eurocentric hair are always going to be put to the forefront of like the image of natural hair. So when we think about natural hair, what ended up happening with the natural hair movement was that people who have hair textures like Zendaya, who have hair textures like Amandla, you know, I always imagine it like, I don't know if y'all ever seen the Target, but Target always be putting on these biracial people, and the biracial people always be having these little ringlet curls. So it was definitely given that that 3C mixed girl assumed hair texture. Yeah, so like that became the image of the natural hair movement, is these like loose curls. And then they started to sell this, and then the capitalism comes into it. Yeah, because like everyone's like, oh, we're just gonna be selling products so that everyone feels like they have to have their hair like this, and if they don't have their hair like this, then their hair is unkept. I feel like the darker you are, the nappier your hair is, the more of this is an assumption that you have to assimilate to work even harder just to be seen as like acceptable. So when it comes to like the 3C hair texture becoming the face of the natural hair movement, this is really problematic for a few reasons, because 3C was never not in fashion, honey. Like when we go back to the 60s, like people who had 3C, people who was mixed race, they was always encouraged to have their hair out. They have never been discriminated against for having that like loose hair texture. That hair texture has always been praised in society. You know, if you go back to the 70s and you look at them Afro looks, a lot of them girls are people who have a looser hair texture. Yeah, like a lot of the people in the 80s who we also see had a looser hair texture, 3C. So 3C hair has always been represented because that is the image that aspirationally we think of, because it looks like it's farthest away from blackness. So if we're going to talk about texturism, we really need to talk about anti-blackness and going back to the roots and going to the nappiest hair, the kinkiest hair texture. And we really need to be seeing how those things are working, because within natural hair movement is incredibly colorist, it's incredibly texturist, and it's also featurist. So a lot of times when you do see 4C hair that is nappy, the person who will be modeling will be light skin. Yeah. What we aren't seeing a lot of is 4C people who are fat and dark skin and many other intersections that they have, you know. And that's why it's really important for us to have like that top down and look for the most marginalized groups. Like, where are the 4C dark skin, fat, disabled people making content? That's what we really need to be checking for. So when the whole natural hair movement happened, it often pushed to the forefront people who have looser hair textures, who are more racially ambiguous, as being the norm for 4C hair. And then a lot of companies that have historically been anti-black as fuck decided to capitalize on this movement, and they themselves wanted to then be like, oh, look, just buy these products and like you will also have good hair. Because now good hair does not mean straight anymore. Good hair just now means like a 3C, 3B hair texture. And so that's really interesting too, because whenever the natural hair blogs will show someone with 4C hair, which is very rarely, especially if they're dark skin, you always have to be checking for dark skin 4C people. Whenever they do want to show it, they always want to show us having to put so much products just to have our hair seen as acceptable. And it's just like, if I come out the womb and my hair's like this, you tell me I gotta add products just to chase something that's not me, like that's like really fucked up. And there's always this expectation within blackness, within dark skin, within nappy hair, that we need to do more, that we are born flawed, and we are 100% not born flawed, we are born whole. And these companies are flawed as fuck, and these natural hair gurus that tell you that you need to add all these products to be seen as acceptable, to seen as okay, you know what I'm saying? There's a place in hell for you. There's a place in hell for people who do that, because it's just like, why are you preying on very vulnerable people? There's already a lack of representation of people who have nappy hair, deep dark skin people who have to continuously hide their hair because our hair texture isn't being shown. So when we talk about the natural hair movement, we really need to be checking for dark skinned, nappy headed people, because they are the ones who are facing the brunt of texturism, colorism, featurism, all these things. So, and another thing that we need to talk about on top of the white supremacy, Eurocentric like idealization that we have, is also this concept of length. A lot of times whenever people want to show 4C hair, they want to show people who have 4C hair that's very long. I don't like this long concept is really embedded into the ways that we think about gender as well, because we feel like womanhood, femininity should be long. Yeah, so like if you don't have long hair, I feel like they don't want to show you within 4C. And 4C hair, like we need to also be checking for people who have short nappy hair, because like that is okay. Like, and you know, whenever people say like, how long is your hair, we always are like trying to measure it out like on length, and people would be like, oh, my hair is nappy, but when I stretch it out it's this long. But it's like, why are we always thinking about having to stretch it out? Like that's just the hair texture it is. And like even the concept of like thinking length goes this way when our hair really goes this way. So someone has said to me under one of my pictures, they was like, oh, your hair is so pretty, blah, 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 but I wonder what it would look like straight. And I just think this is a really flawed way of thinking about things, because I don't want you to look at me and imagine my hair is straight. Like, do y'all look at white girls and think like, I wonder what her hair looks like nappy? No, you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't imagine what kinky hair would look like on straight hair. You don't imagine them like back combing and like, you know what I mean? So why do you expect me to have to straighten my hair? Like, once again, it's this expectation, this hyper criticalness that's always given to people who have very nappy hair and who are often very dark skinned. Like, it's just this like hyper awareness that that we just are consistently having, like, flawed. And I really want us to really think about that, because every single time we make comments like, you're unkept, you don't take care of yourself, you need products, like, you're telling me I'm not enough. And when that happens from your own people, that really says something about it. And it's really a double-edged sword, yeah? Because anti-blackness, like, you think you stabbing me saying anti-black shit to me, but bitch, you stabbing yourself too. And it may not be in your generation, but it'll definitely be in your kin's generation, because if we are treating black people with nappy hair terribly, what does that say about how we view ourselves, and what does it say about how we view our future? It's almost like we don't want people to have nappy hair. Like, a lot of people's worst fear is having a daughter or having a non-man child that has like nappy hair. And it's like, why is that? Like, this is really like controlling our people. Our obsession with like length, our obsession with a looser curl pattern, our obsession with constantly manipulating our hair is really destroying the beauty that can happen when we were actually just able to accept and sit with the fact that blackness is beautiful. Blackness is beautiful. Nappy hair is beautiful. Dark skin is beautiful. All these things are beautiful. This is not something that we should have to be constantly trying to shift to look closer to Eurocentric standards of beauty. Like, fuck that. Like, honestly, fuck that. Like, you know, black people have always had to do so much just to be seen as professional. Meanwhile, Bobby can roll out of bed, he can smell like corn chips, and he can get hired for a job. Make it make sense. And you want me to have to be doing way more just to be seen as Bobby? And nappy hair is just so fucking beautiful, and I really hope everybody understands that. And if you continue to make fun and mock people who have nappy hair, oh, I tell you, the hell will be hot for you. That's all I have to say. So thanks for watching. Have a great day, and see y'all later.